So this is kind of the background, and the topic is supposed to be Anáhuac theology, and trying to present Anáhuac theology it becomes extremely difficult because a lot of what happened to our theology, again, theology, religion, there is a difference. Christianity has a belief in a man named Jesus Christ, that he is the same person with the creator of the universe, that he is the same person with somebody called the Holy Ghost. Okay? That is a belief system. There's a belief that there will be a resurrection. There is a belief in the original sin. There is a belief and a belief and a belief and a belief. 100% of these beliefs are unproven. So that's why it's called faith. And the same thing goes for Islam. Purely a belief system. With ours, what happened when the Europeans encountered what they saw of our theology, they translated it into a religion. They saw the multiple imagery and said, oh, those are idols and gods. Again, misunderstanding, mistranslation, misinterpretation. When you look at the Europeans, you don't say, well, they got 3 gods, but then they also got the devil and angels and saints. And this Mary, is she kind of like a goddess? Or there's all this imagery of her. But then it says, you shouldn't have idols. Then why do they have idols? And then the Protestants say, yeah, we don't have idols. Then what's that little cross you're wearing? Isn't that an idol? So there's a lot of bizarre things that go on, and we accept it as a very normal thing because I'm speaking to you like an Englishman. I'm speaking to you with the language of that little island off the coast of Europe. O les puedo estar hablando en español, the land of Spain. But I'm obviously not a European person, and even if I was even lighter, it make me a European person. It would just be the scarring of centuries of rape into our population. And so when it comes, again, back to the theology, the theology that we had was based more on science, on observation. Europeans want to inject, it was like the Romans or like the Greeks, or it was like the Hindu religion, it was like, well, that's like saying, well, Hinduism is like Christianity. Christ, Krishna, they even sound kind of alike. There is kind of like a trinity there. Hey, they got a trinity there also. Yeah, and they got the idols, they got all these idols, and they got the saints in the churches. So Christianity and Hinduism, they're very much alike. We've got educated people here. We know they're nothing alike. But there I give you examples of something that is very strangely coincidental, even the sound of Christ and Krishna. But then when you look into the history, Christ was more like an added-on thing later on, and a whole bunch of other things. So when they encountered our theology, they want to interpret it as a separate thing from our society. And it's kind of like at the core, at the heart of our society, it was the theology. And the theology was tied into the warrior societies. And the warrior societies basically were the warrior priests who were the teachers. They were the defenders. They were the ones who kept discipline. The theology was not a belief system. It was an understanding. And there is a big difference. I don't have to believe in this ground right here. It's there. I don't have to believe in the sky or the sun or the moon. They're there. I don't have to believe in birth and death. I don't have to believe in a universe that's out there. I don't see stars right now. Okay, I know that there are stars right now. We just can't see them because we're blinded to seeing them because of the sun, and that's a science, and you understand that. So no, there are no stars right now. Well, none that you can see. See, but that's not a belief system. That's something that you know for a fact, even though you can't see it. So that's a different way of looking at the world, and to understand that our people were astronomers, some of the most successful astronomers in the history of humanity. We had the most accurate calendar in the history of humanity. Even to this day, actually, it's still more accurate than the one that we're using, except for the one that involves atomic time and all that. So we had this calendar system. You can't derive from astronomy and get to a calendar unless you got things pretty precise. It's like right now we got all this stuff going on about 2012 and all this, and of course, it's all these New Agers they've shit it on our heritage, on our theology. I'll use that word because that's really what they've done. It's monstrous what they've done. But when you learn about what the whole 2012, hey, it's just a cycle. But then it was predicted the end of the world. Well, the Mayans also predicted things. Gee, for 2047, they predicted for even for the year 4000. They predicted things on down the road. If the world was going to end, why do you predict things for afterwards? Well, they don't want facts to get in the way of their craziness about this 2012. But when you study what we knew of astronomy in terms of getting the eclipses down, more accurate than what the Europeans had at one point. But then one of the things that the Europeans, when they were the ones that were studying these projections of astronomical events, they're saying, why are they concerned about something that's going to happen 5,000 years and 10,000 years down the road? Because again, this is in their early studies, and because you're asking that question because you're European and you have a certain way of looking at things. For us, we were obsessed with knowledge. We want to know how far, keep going and keep going. And when you find that it's not just thousands of years into the future, and we're making all of these, basically these calculations, why were we doing this? Because we were obsessed, scientifically obsessed with knowledge. And I said, well, then what are all these gods all about? Who told you that this represents gods? Well, in this book it says this is the goddess of this, and this is the god of that, and who put that down in that way? I like to use the example of the handicap sign. We've all seen one, right? It's blue and it's got white on it. Imagine somebody came from another planet. They landed here, they superficially understood what we were about, and they were actually friendly, and they were just here to gain knowledge and not to invade us and rape us and enslave us and the rest. And they would see the handicap sign and say, I've seen this sign everywhere. I'm guessing that's where people leave their wheelchairs. I've seen the wheelchairs. They look kind of like the wheelchairs. But I've never seen any wheelchairs there. Is there a scarcity now of wheelchairs? Were there more wheelchairs at one point? And then they said, no, that's for people who have disabilities. We refer to it as a handicap. Well, what I've seen cars move in there. And I haven't seen anybody come out of there with a wheelchair, though. What is this? Well, if they came out and they really are not handicapped and they park there, there's a huge fine. And most of us already know that. Where's this? Can I read that? Have any of you ever actually read where it says about handicap, how much is the fine, but you know it, right?
Right.
And continuing with the handicap sign, it's part of the culture now. You know, it's a bad thing. Even if you don't get the ticket, you're a bad person for parking there. Especially if you don't have the sticker. It could be my grandma may need that one day, or my brother who's handicapped. We see it as a very bad thing. And if a cop sees you, you're going to get the ticket. There's a whole bunch of things with just that little blue thing. And in reality, does it have anything to do with wheelchairs? Yeah, kind of. Probably doesn't really probably the majority of the people who use them aren't really in wheelchairs. Now, that same person from another planet, they can be doing that with a whole bunch of other things if they just start guessing, right? But here you have somebody trying to explain it to them, but it's a little bit difficult. So when you do study Anáhuac theology, there is one book, this copy I've had for a long time, it's called Aztec Thought and Culture. Okay, it says Aztec. Okay, guess what? 99% of the books that talk about Mexica say Aztec, because there was a guy named Kingsborough, an Englishman, and there was a guy named Prescott, an American, who made that very popular to the point that even in Mexico, they refer to Los Aztecas. This is Leon Portilla. And Leon Portilla is a guy born in Mexico, studied the Nahuatl language, studied a lot of the literature, and he's very Eurocentric. So even when you're reading this, after you studied a lot of different things, you can pick up what is actually, he's kind of defending Christianity, kind of in a passive way. But on the other hand, he admires the philosophy, the worldview, and so he explains, about the wise men and the morality, and then some of this stuff is inferred. It's kind of like the theology and the morality. We're used to it as being part of religion, that it's a tied-in thing. But with us, the theology was part of society, was part of everything, but it wasn't a direct thing. The theology was about the science. It was about how we live and how we die. It was about all these different things. But the morality, the ethics were more tied into law. So even that's a different paradigm of how things operated.